Good day again. It's Exodus chapter 6, verse 5. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage. And I have remembered my covenant. Notes, 5 times he declares that he is Jehovah. That's verses 2 and 3 and 6 through 8. And 7 times he utters the great words, I will. And 3 times he declares, I have. We shall read them all. Verse 6. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. Notes, and this is a perfect example of the believer held in bondage. The believer is being held captive by an intelligent force, namely Satan and his demon spirits. Consequently, these evil powers do not yield to the band-aids of man, if you will. They will only yield to a superior force, and the only superior force in the universe is the Lord Jesus Christ. And with him, you must remember, whenever you have one, you have all three of the Trinity. The source of deliverance is always Christ, while means of deliverance is always the cross. How I desire in my heart that every preacher would preach that message. You'd be surprised at how many people really don't actually know how the cross of Christ actually works. Verse 7. And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God. And you shall know that I am the Lord your God, which brings you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Notes once again, this was all done, in essence, by the cross, of which the slain lamb and the blood applied to the doorpost were symbols. That's in chapter 12, verse 3, 7 and 13. I believe I wrote that down as chapter 7 and verse 13. Verse 8. And I will bring you unto the land concerning the which I did swear to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, and I will give it to you for an heritage. I am the Lord. Notes, basically, if we can believe in it, and he can actually do it. It's as simple as that. Verse 9, And Moses spoke so unto the children of Israel, but they hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit and for cruel bondage. Oh, what a really sad thing. Notes, hope deferred makes the heart sick. The Israelites who had expected a speedy deliverance and found themselves the more downtrodden for Moses' interference were too much dispirited to be cheered even by the gracious promises and utterances which Moses was commissioned to give. The Samaritan version of this account says, And they said to Moses, Let us alone, let us serve the Egyptians, for it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than die in the wilderness. Lest we think of the Israelites too harshly, we must actually look at ourselves. How many times have I said that? As evidenced here, the promises of God do not mean a problem-free environment. The Lord allows the problems to teach us trust and obedience, but all too often we allow the problems to stop us from receiving God's best. On a side note, Pastor John Hagee of Cornerstone Church did an excellent sermon about the promises and the problems and the provisions. God gives you a promise, He gives you a problem, and how you conduct yourself in that problem determines how quickly you get to your provision. And we'll have to continue on verse 10. You can order that sermon. I certainly recommend it. Verse 10. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Go in, speak unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. Notes, Moses is to continue the demand of Pharaoh and that he must let Israel go. And that's the same thing that we must do as believers. Because the demon forces of darkness do not yield at the beginning they do not yield at the beginning does not mean that they aren't going to yield. We are to stand our ground, keep believing that what Jesus did at the cross is sufficient, which it most certainly is, and keep commanding the evil one to go. I believe Jesus said if you resist the devil, he will flee from you, and somewhere in the book of Matthew, we'll get around to that much later. Verse 12, And Moses spoke before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who is of uncircumcised lips? Notes, Moses is speaking of his inability to speak properly. Though our infirmities ought to humble us, yet they ought not discourage us from doing our very best in any service we have to do for God. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. A good example of this I found was a preacher that I saw on TBN who was severely mentally retarded and had a very horrible speech impediment, but he preached the gospel nonetheless in front of thousands of people, and quite a few people gave their lives to the Lord. How much can we do for God? Verse 13, And the Lord spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron, and gave them a charge unto the children of Israel, and unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Notes, the Lord just kind of ignored Moses, rather giving a charge to both Moses and Aaron. And that charge was this. That charge is incumbent upon us presently as well. We are to stand upon the promises of God and command Satan to leave that which God has promised to us. All of this is a perfect example to us. Verse 14, These be the heads of their fathers' houses, the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok and Palu, Hezron and Carmi. These be the families of Reuben. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin and Ohad and Jachin and Zohar, and Shaul the son of a Canaanitish woman. These are the families of Simeon. Verse 16, And these are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations, Gershon and Kohath and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni and Shimei, according to their families. Verse 18, And the sons of Kohath, Amram and Izhar, and Hebron and Uzziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. And the sons of Merari, Mahali and Mushi. These are the families of Levi according to their generations. And Amram took him Jochebed his father's sister to wife, and she bore him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. And the sons of Izhar, Korah and Nepheg and Zikri. And the sons of Uzziel, Mishael and Elzaphan and Zithri. And Aaron took him Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Nahashon, to wife. And she bore him Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. And the sons of Korah, Asher and Elkanah and Abiasaph. These are the families of the Korhites, or Korhites, I should say. Verse 25, And Eleazar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the Levites according to their families. Notice, the grace that gave the promises of the first chapter records the names of those whom Pharaoh declared to be his slaves. We'll have to pick up in Exodus chapter 6, verse 26. And finally, I don't have a spoon gagging me with these names. Thank you very much.